Here we go. I hope you see me well. Welcome everyone to our little Things Executive update today. Just so you know, Things is 7 years old. It's a self-funded deep tech hub focusing on industry, infrastructure, utilities, and mobility. And we are located in Stockholm, but we operate basically around the world. So it's my buddy Linda Krondahl and I, Magnus Melander, who started Things 7 years ago. And this is one of the things we love to do, really. Today we have about 100 members in Things, 50-50 tech companies and corporates from Tokyo to Silicon Valley. And we have about 20 plus international partners who help us make or deliver high quality cross-country, cross-border services to our members. Our services typically include things like workshops, matchmakings, innovation challenges, acceleration programs, and advice in general to our members. And we focus on business. We don't do education, research, or entertainment. We focus on business, and our motto is hands-on business first. We are so small, so we just have to focus really, really on the business. Our objective is to establish or enable sustainable, long-term business relationships between larger companies and smaller companies, because we simply believe they need each other onwards. We also members recently in Deep Tech Alliance, which is a great initiative in Europe for companies like ourselves who work with deep tech. And so together with friends in Germany, Italy, Israel, Switzerland, Denmark, and Norway, we are actually doing acceleration programs for deep tech companies cross-border in Europe. So we invented this format, the executive update format, to help executives among our members to really get on top of quickly things that are important that they should be aware of. And the problem with all of that is that things that are important and around the corner are talked about a lot and thought about a lot and written about a lot, but very few people have actually anything of experience to share. Data-driven transformation has been on the lips for people for years now, and people are using the words reinventing companies and disrupting industries, in my mind, too much. But yet we haven't seen a lot of successes. And despite books and slideware in tons, they're very hard to see the successes and also listen to the people who have done the successes or the failures. So I'm so incredibly happy today to present to you one of those successful exceptions that we have. And not only that, we have executives from the 3 companies who's been involved in this thing, and they're all here to share with you what they did, why they did it, how it worked out, what they learned, and so forth. So I think this will be probably the best event we ever did. That's my own expectation. The way it's going to work, I will try to moderate this. Each speaker will talk for about 15 to 20 minutes. You can put questions in the chat if you like, and I will try to stick them into the discussion when feasible and when we have time. I also want people to turn off the cameras and mute, because otherwise we have a lot of things happening on the screens. After the event, you will receive a post-event mail with information about how you contact the companies presenting and so forth. Also, where you will find the recorded version of this on Things YouTube channel afterwards. So, without any further ado, let's see if Eric is here.
Yep, I'm here. Magnus.
Excellent. So please share your screen and take it away, Eric.
Yeah, I'll do my best here. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I just had some problems myself. I hope you don't experience that.
So we are all ready to go, huh?
Yes.
So let's see what we can show you today, and a little bit of about STENA Bulk's journey, digital journey so far, and everyone ask us when they started, and it's definitely a question what you should count with. But I would say that this particular digital journey that we now will talk about, you can say started 2015, when we saw, well, of course, everyone was talking about digitalization at the time, and we we as a company are usually like to be in the forefront within our industry at least, and try to see what we can do with this. But before we get into that journey, of course, I like to make sure that we present STENA Bulk, if that works here. Yeah. There we go. Okay, a little bit slower. There we go. Thank you. STENA Bulk, as a company, what we do on our daily operation and what we work with is to carry crude oil, chemicals, and vegetable oils and LNG, liquid natural gas, all over the world. We have a head office in Gothenburg, but we also have offices in Singapore, Dubai, Copenhagen, Houston, and a smaller office in Shanghai as well. STENA Bulk is a part of the STENA AB Group, or the STENA Sphere. What we are, well, how big we are in this group is that we have around 70% of the group revenue. 90 people employed, and all in all, around 15 billion SEK in revenue, which is basically $1.8 billion. We have a few investments as well in ships, and that is around $1 billion, $1.2 billion roughly, or 8.2 billion SEK. And you can say we are running between 100 to 120 tankers or LNG ships in the world. And I would say in Sweden we never really operate anything, but basically in the rest of the world. So we are definitely an international company, and the only reason why we sit in Sweden is probably that we have the head owner who is having his office here. But just a little bit of a hint of where the digital journey has brought us so far is, if you look there in the right hand corner, you see one things that we have achieved in our digital journey since not only 2015, but you can say we started up 2011, 2012. We have reduced our energy needs for transporting the cargoes we're doing with 25%. And what does that really mean in money? Well, I'm going to let you calculate yourself a little bit. But on yearly basis, we take fuel, energy for around 500,000 tons per year, and each ton costs around $400. So 25% reduction in that. So it becomes quite a lot of money after a while. Then why did we start this then? Well, in STENA Bulk and in the STENA Sphere, I would say that innovation is definitely a part of our culture, a very, very important part in our culture. What we always say in our slogan and the tagline is we stand for innovation and performance, and we are probably definitely not the only company in the world who says that. But we are definitely doing more than just talking about it. We are in our industry, I would say, one of the leaders in the world in trying to develop, of course, basic technology to make the more ships more efficient, but definitely also this digital technology. I would say we are one of the top 5, maybe one of the top 3, and maybe, if I will speak about it myself, number 1 in the world in this development. And it all has to do with we are touching this on a little bit different angle than many others are doing. We are touching it up on it from a business angle and not from a technological angle, even if it definitely goes hand in hand, as we will see later on. With that, of course, we are definitely trying to use the digital transformation and the digital innovation, making sure that we are then developing the technology we have as well to achieve a higher efficiency of our ship. And by that also, as I mentioned in the previous slide, the energy management is extremely important for us. And what we can do with this development and technical digital journey we have done so far is to reduce the bunker consumption on our ships. of course, I would call it, the digitalization was the buzzword 5 years ago. Sustainability is the buzzword today. And I'm 100% sure that the buzzword will become stronger and stronger, and that's something we definitely have to work with a lot going forward here, and with all requirements or the new requirements coming here for the next few years, especially for shipping, but also all other industries. So with this digital journey that we already have done to a high degree, even if we have a far way to go, I'm sure that this will be a very, very important factor for us as well in our way to present what we're doing, but also make ourselves even more efficient in this respect, and still become very relevant for our customers and suppliers, and of course also hopefully we're going to compete even stronger with our competitors out there. And all of this does, of course, drills down to the business efficiency. And what we also have done is, I mentioned it before, and we are touching upon this from a business angle point of view. And when we do that, we are making sure that we are using this technology to, basically we know everything what our competitors are doing from in each and every second, and with the digital platform we now have, we can basically we can see everything they do, and we can also learn from what they're doing. So we become even better. But last but not least, of course, the most important part of this culture and this journey we are doing so far is the most important software we have, and that's the people and the people behind this that we have been working with now for quite a few years. And it's not only people working with digitalization, but it's for sure also the people working in our day-to-day business, the basic business that are also adapting to what we're developing. And that can in itself be a very difficult journey, of course, for many companies. And believe me, it definitely has been a challenge for us as well. But everyone does, of course, accept it to a higher and higher degree. And I think we are more or less 100% adapting to it at this stage. So when we started this digital journey, it started with the conviction that to become digital will definitely make us a lot stronger than not being digital. With that, of course, when you start something relatively new, there's always a risk of failing, and that's also a part of our culture. We are never afraid to fail. We have failed many times in all kind of developments, but what we always say is, by failing we're learning, and we have a company where failing is no one has ever been, if I may say, penalized for failing. But of course, the important thing is to share the experience and making sure that is then used for making sure that we are succeeding the next time around when we're trying something. It is also for sure driven by our vision and fueled by the technology that is now available for us today. Of course, the technology 5 years ago was somewhat different than it is today, and by that it's also extremely important for us to be on board and follow what's going on out there. And that's the curiosity that we also have in our genes, and I would say in our culture, that we are, with the never being afraid to fail, we are also daring to follow new convictions and also new technologies and new trends, probably more than many other in our industry. We are allowing ourselves for experimentation, and this is a typical concept of experimentation, even if it becomes a lot more than an experiment at the end of the day. And at the same time, of course, extremely important to stay focused on the benefits that we are then trying to achieve. It's of course extremely easy to try to build, see a vision and not narrow it down to something real when you start up working with it. But there we also have, with our partners and our friends that are here together with me, and of course the groups we have been working on together with in STENA Bulk. We have, through the intelligence, efficiency, and agility, and the transparency between each other, made quite a journey, I would say, for ourselves and so for our partners and a few other customers as well to OrbitMI that we will see later. So what is digital technology as an enabler? Well, for us, digitalization is not about the technology as such. It's to open a door to be more efficient and modern and sustainable. And of course, at the end of the day, all this means that we're going to make more money, because it's definitely the most important thing for us is to be financially sustainable as well. Otherwise, we cannot continue to develop. And by that, of course, again here, a little bit repeating myself here, but when it comes to the environmental footprint, we are making new commitments, and through the digital journey we have done so far, we are definitely taking quite a few steps here in that direction as well. And together with this, we are probably one of the leaders in this development as well. This would not have happened if we would not have developed the digital tools we have done so far today. So it's one thing following each other, and of course the steps we took 5-6 years ago is an extremely important part of where we are today. Not only in the digital journey, but many other journeys that we are doing at the same time. So as already mentioned, when we started this journey, we started to develop something, and there was a digital platform that is now called Orbit. It called Orbit quite quickly, actually. We had a contest of what we should call this platform, and Orbit, we thought it was a very good word, because of it's going to be a global piece of information, and we will also be able to synchronize all the data in one place, and by that, extract the information we need into different places and different platforms and for different needs. And of course, we are a shipping company. We run ships. We like big ships. We like big pieces of equipment. We don't know anything about the digital development. So there we actually met up with HTEC. And that was, I would say, end of 2015, beginning of 2016. And they made quite an impression on me at that time. And they were very willing and very open to have a very good cooperation, and they were not putting limits on themselves. They were only seeing opportunities with what we told them, and I would say that well, they are definitely a big part of the success we had so far, and that we are where we are. Then when we then continue to develop this, we realized that well, it costs quite a lot to develop this ourselves. And by that, of course, we tried to start up to look at alternatives for continue to develop this platform to become something even bigger and greater, and probably something to share as well. What we wanted to do then was to create a new industrial platform, and I know that there are many companies out there, not only in shipping but all in many other industries as well, that of course have a dream to create something that is for everybody. But the next question is to do it, of course. but we thought, we were of course through the whole journey trying to see if there are other ways of doing what we did, and try to find other platforms, and try to find other parts of collaboration and cooperation to develop the platform we had. But we always realized that we were by far actually much further ahead than all the competitors out there. There were some attempts from others actually to talk down on what we have created, and said that this was easy peasy, and that we then would definitely go together then to develop this. But of course we we were smart enough, I would say, to realize that we understood as much as we had a very interesting piece of tool that we should do something more about. And we had to continue to polish the diamond we had. And by that, we realized that we should find a way to capitalize on this and make sure that we can also develop it with a lot quicker pace. And by that, we did together with Oli and his team create something called OrbitMI. So as we say here in the last sentence, Orbit could already walk and run, but we wanted to fly, and we like to fly it all the way to the stars here when we are getting that far, and I think we will actually. So by that, an introduction to where we are today, and by that, of course, just come up with questions and comments or whatever here. Thank you.
Great, Erik. Wonderful introduction to this event and this story. I don't have any questions for you right now at the chat, but I would just like to ask you something. I found the journey sounds so easy in 15 minutes, but I understand there's a lot of things going on until you reached to where you reached. So what would you say was the most difficult part of this journey so far?
It's been a couple of different pieces, and of course in the startup, you can say, for ourselves, then it was to get all the people on board the train to make sure that they really understood that this is the way forward, and they have to join, otherwise they will probably be left at the train station and not join the trade all the way through. But then of course also to take the step for us to leave Orbit to someone else, and to find a partner that we really trust and believe in, and that they have the ambitions that we have. That was definitely a difficult task as well. And of course, now we've been working together with All and the team for a couple of years now. But it takes a year or so before really know who they are and what they can achieve. And of course, one of the biggest challenges is that you have so many ideas, and then you have to, of course, develop it as well. So the good thing is that there are many ideas left to take care of, but at the same time, we have done something here that has so much potential. We only fly, and the sky is the limit.
Wonderful. But before we started, you actually told us that you were working a lot with videos and movies.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit on that idea or that method to the others? Because I love the whole idea. I remember that from the early days at Apple. We also did movies to share ideas with people.
Yeah. No, when we many times, or I would say all the times, when we come up with ideas that becomes more relevant, even if it's a startup, we are trying to visualize this in one way or another, and by that, we see also that people are adapting to it a lot easier, because then it's easy to show what we really mean with it. And when we started Orbit 2015, we made up a movie for that as well. It was a 3-4 minutes video, and if you see what we created 2015, we have reached basically that far today. The only thing I'm missing is the hologram that I wanted on the ships as well, popping up from the table. But otherwise, all the information that we wanted out of the system at the time, that is something we have achieved, and probably a little bit more than that today.
Wonderful. I think we have to stop there, Erik. Thank you so much. And you have to unshare your screen, please.
Yep.
I will see if we can find Oli somewhere in the cyberspace.
I am right here, Magnus.
Wonderful. Let's see if we can get to see you. I don't see you. I think I still see Erik's slides. I don't know. Linda, oh, no. There you are. Great.
Here I am.
Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Always inspired to hear Erik talk about how we got from an idea to OrbitMI.
Excellent. So why don't you take us to the next step of the journey?
Absolutely. And I think I'll just make it a personal story and share exactly, how I got involved. And through that, demonstrate some really key concepts that are very important, I think. Um, I have been an entrepreneur. I worked for large companies like Novartis and CSC, and started my startup career in uh, 2001 with initial company that we built and sold to Microsoft, and the second one built and sold to ServiceNow. And for the last 4 or 5 years, I was investing in companies and also teaching at different places like Stanford University, which is where I met with the STENA folks. And actually, I was talking about being data-driven for non-native enterprises, whereas it's very natural for Spotify and for Amazon to be data-driven. How does a traditional company and somebody that has history back 135 years and 75 years in current shape and form for like Stena, how do they become data-driven? So when I then connected with the Stena folks at the time, they told me that they have done just that. They have asked themselves some really important questions. What is big data? What is artificial intelligence? Where is the cloud? And how can that help them be more efficient, be more profitable, and be more sustainable? And I think that is, if we were to write a book about this, I said, if unless the leadership asks those curious questions, very little is possible. It ends up being very little projects tinkering around in different departments, and like, little day flowers, they grow up in the morning and die by the evening, and just a waste of time. You might as well not bother. So I was first and foremost very impressed by the leadership actually asking themselves questions. As I worked with financial services, I worked with life sciences. I've never worked with maritime. Frankly, maritime has always been a little scary to me. What are these huge iron buckets, traveling around the world, carrying 90% of all of our goods that we consume? Huge part of health of the world is to look at the maritime business, and you'll know how things are happening and what will happen. But at the same time, it's a industry that's run in very non-digital way. So in my experience, we would focus on financial services or life sciences. But when I started to meet with Stena people and understand that they were ahead of their time, but also that they had leadership support and deep curiosity for how to use these new concepts, new science, to be better. And then I saw the product, and I realized that they had done some things right. One of the things they did right is to actually work with HTEC, and I'll just say that straight out. I think people don't understand when they're picking a partner for product development that just like an engineer, there's many different types. Just like a doctor, there's many different types. You don't go to a dentist if your leg has broken. You can, but it's not going to be very productive. So just like that, HTEC is designed to build products. It's not a help desk company. It's not going to come in, and it can if you want to, but they're designed to build sustainable, enduring, productive, products that are globally scalable. So somebody was very smart, or somebody got very lucky, but Stena connected with HTEC. But back to the going from curiosity to action, I believe that when I looked at Orbit, I saw some really important best practices in place. And I'm not just talking good about Orbit. Obviously, we already love Orbit and it's doing really well. But just for everybody's key learning, things that we teach in the universities is best practices. And if you think about Orbit, and you think about, somebody saying, hey, okay, what are these big concepts? What are these emerging technologies? And how does that apply to us? then needs to articulate itself into guiding principles, aspirations. Now, Eric has an aspiration that holographically a ship will come up from the table and he can swirl it around, click in the machine room, connect with the captain, first officer, whatnot, even look around the ship, see what's happening, and that will happen. And we will always strive to make that happen. But there's so many advancements to even get to that possibility. That's what had to come in place, because if you don't connect the dots, you'll never get to a holistic understanding. So these guiding principles, what are they? Well, sometimes people build a piece of technology, and sometimes they build an enduring technology. And piece of technology is like, hey, I need to just fix something. Let's put these things together. Let's give me an index, give me a database, put the stuff in there. Let's do a ability to search on that database, and I have solved something. And then, but it's not going anywhere. You just created a point solution that has a start and finish date. What STENA together with HTEC did that I was very impressed with, which led me to be, very interested in being part of this journey, was that they asked themselves some important guiding principles, such as A, try not to use hardware. Try to really use these technologies at the edge of their capability, so that when you're implementing it and using it, you don't have to drag the hardware component with it. Now, anybody who knows maritime knows that vessels don't really want another box. and for a vendor to onboard vessels, you have to do a lot of vessel chasing around the world, right? Eric mentioned that 99.9% of a business is outside Sweden. So it's a global business, definitely. The other one was that it has to serve many different departments. It can't be just in chartering, just in bunkering, just in energy management, and so on and so on. But these are very important, that it cuts across different departments. Now, for me, that is alpha omega when it comes to breaking silos and building workflows. So a little bit history on software is that, unfortunately, the way software development works in a corporation is that we solve problems like a whack-a-mole, right? We have a problem in the claims department. We go fix that with a little bit technology and a lot of manual work. We have a challenge or an opportunity in chartering. We go there, we do that, and then it just stays there. And when we do that, we actually put data into a index, a silo, if you like, and then we provide security and all kinds of capabilities on that silo, and that silo gets bigger and thicker. And now that information is trapped. And real data-driven means that data is outside these silos and is actually feeding a workflow. We don't work with database for the sake of database. We don't work with data warehousing for the sake of data warehousing. We work with technology and data because we have a workflow. We go from a proposal to a contract to post-fixture. We go from a signal that a vessel needs attention to understanding what's going on with the vessel, fixing, sharing, communicating, and then recording that whole event. These are workflows. That's how human beings work. We don't work inside a database for the sake of database. So the idea of actually looking across divisions, creating this collaboration, has an incredible benefit when the regulatory comes in. Regulators don't care about your organizational structure. Regulators don't care that your head of claims department doesn't want to share information with the head of energy department. The form you have to fill in takes data from many different areas, and that becomes a form. And that's what happened in the financial services world with Dodd-Frank regulatory. That's what happened in life sciences when in the late 90s, it started with generic substitution parallel trade and a lot more rigorous reporting around clinical trials. And now this is happening in maritime industry, and it's forcing people to actually produce data and forms across the organization. Now, if you don't have those tools and all these departments are existing in silos, the work that you have to do to collate that information requires another department called compliance department. But if you have information that actually has these things, then people can auto-populate these and auto-distribute them. And that allows you to actually, instead of struggling with regulatory, to use that as advantage, which is what STENA is doing now, right? Is that they're on top of it. So the guiding principles were also beyond this, that it has to be extendable. What does that mean? That means that if Eric has an idea, or his team members have an idea, or there's a challenge, then they go to Orbit first and say, okay, what data sets we already have? What workflows do we already have? What do we need? What's the gap analysis? And you add the things that you're missing instead of starting from scratch. And in hours and days, you can actually innovate. You can iterate. You can test. You can ask what-if statements. So instead of running around and putting together data and figuring out who's what, you actually get to the actionable stage immediately. And that's called extendability. And I think the last part, which I think is just, I admired probably the most, is that there was a lot of care between STENA and HTEC about user experience. Eric mentioned that, it's very important to bring everybody on board. He mentioned a train, I'll say a vessel, I'll say a boat. It's very important that software technology is used. If people are not using the technology, it doesn't matter how good it is. So how do people use technology? Well, you can force them, which most part of the world is not very easy. Or you can make their lives easier, give them personal benefit. So anybody who is feeling that they are constantly chasing data, constantly chasing information, constantly correcting things, instead of actually servicing their customers, personal development, collaborating with them, with the team members, there's a very different job experience, right? You have a very different life experience when you are constantly feeling that you're behind versus being ahead. And the goal of technology is not just to create incredible analytics and incredible graphs and all that stuff, but it's to make each individual person's life better, easier, and allow them enough time so they can grow. And so the idea around user experience, the UI UX part. UI is user experience, UX is the workflow underneath it, and the amount of effort that went into it. Now I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about corporate spin-offs versus startups. And every day we hear about these incredible startups and these people, unicorns and all that stuff. We have to remember there's 999 failures for each one semi-successful startup. In fact, I will tell you that recent data, I'll read it to you, that Bloomberg US spin-off index has produced a total return of 973% since its inception in December 31st, 2002. Now, guess what the S&P 500 index was in the same period? In the interest of time, I'll answer my own question. 342. So corporate spin-offs are 3x more successful than a normal S&P index. Now, startups are even less successful, right? So why? And I think that's the beauty of Orbit and STENA and HTEC, is that in order to build a real powerful technology that really works, you need to have a great combination of expertise in maritime, in this case in maritime, and technology. And you have to marry them. Very often when you have a startup coming out from nowhere, they will build an MVP. I don't like that word, full disclosure, because I think it's a dream breaker. You build an MVP, you raise some capital, you build an MVP, it does something well, but enterprises don't buy an MVP. Enterprises buy technology that has security, like GDPR, single sign-on, is globally accessible. It's accessible on different type of devices. It has multiple functions. It's trainable. It has documentation. In order to build an enterprise software, it takes a lot of time and money. And if you look at financial services, one of the big areas in technology is fintech, financial technologies, the technology that serve the financial services. Did you know that most of technology innovation that comes in the financial services world comes from the banks themselves? More from JP Morgan with 60,000 engineers to Goldman Sachs to Morgan Stanley and so many others. That's where a lot of technology innovation comes from. Now, I will share one more thing that really impressed me, and that was first. What was impressed me was the insight of building Orbit. Right? Why did STENA build Orbit? Because there were either point solutions that they would have to buy, and now they have 6, 7, 8 more applications that they have to connect and development risk, and it takes 2, 3, 4 years to do that, or they have to license some older platform that just doesn't have the innovation cycles required to face 2021, 2022, and so forth. So they were forced to build, in a way, Orbit, right? Now they did it with an open heart and a very vigorous approach. Kudos to them. So I'm very impressed by that insight. But I'm equally impressed by the foresight of knowing that a shipping company is a shipping company. While they can innovate and they will continue to innovate and they have a history and culture and tradition of innovation, in order for a piece of software to survive, it needs to surround itself in a software culture. What happens normally when Bank of America builds a technology or a STENA builds a technology is that they get all the experts in the organization to congregate, to group, to look at this problem and in a very intense way apply all their expertise and then create what actually will work. But then they go on to the next project and the next project, right? Because that's not their culture. It's to every day what we're doing is to every day we are doing sprints. Every day we're working on the product. Oracle spends 25, 30% of their revenue on R&D is because software actually needs that type of investment to keep fresh, to keep the APIs going, to keep the data, new data sets integrated, to have all kinds of new devices that it needs to be able to render on. So the foresight to say, in order for Orbit to continue to deliver value and for it to actually increase its value all the way to the big dreams of Eric, it has to be inside a software culture where crazy software people like myself every day wake up and we continue to build and continue to build and continue to build on the core technology. So Orbit today is a global brand. We have clients and prospects and partners around the world. We are leveraging and really benefiting from the initial solid foundation, and we work with HTEC as close as you would think you have your own organization. I don't think Orbit and HTEC together think about themselves as separate teams. I think we think about ourselves as one team, and that's kudos to HTEC, kudos to STENA, but also the way it needs to be, because in order to continue to innovate, we have to have an extreme intimacy on where we are and where we need to go. So it's been a great journey. We just got started and we have a long way to go. But this is a great example of many important concepts: leadership support, innovation versus prioritization, guiding principles, finding the right engineering, and continuing to demand more and more out of the piece of technology that you have. All of this is, I think it should be a book one day, but all of these are great examples.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Oli. A question for you. We don't have anyone on the chat. You feel free to drop questions on the chat, guys. But so I was wondering, and Eric touched on that as well. It's like leaving your kids, to spin out a company from your corporate. But do you think there are a lot of cases where corporates are in a good position to actually spin out things, but they don't know how to do it?
There is a what worked for us. Let me start there. Was that I think from me and my team, let's say the OrbitMI team, when we were discussing and learning and engaging, and I think the starting point was that everybody was very honest and open. It wasn't any hidden agenda. There was just a bunch of curiosity, and of course I don't really look like it, but I was born and raised in Norway. I grew up watching Stena ferries around me nonstop, so I knew about Stena and I knew about their reputation for quality and professionalism and all these things. I mean, this is the first shipping company to put their big name on their vessels and say, we will swim and sink with our quality. So we knew that already in Scandinavia about their focus. But the starting point was very, I come from, they met me through an academic forum. So it was a very good platform to actually exchange and learn from each other. And the second part was that as much as I had to learn about the maritime world, the willingness and curiosity of the Stena folks around what is a software company? How is that run? What does that take? What are the components of critical success factors of that? And I think that a lot of people are, they fail when they are imposing their world on the other one. I think good things happen when we become curious about each other's world and we want to learn from each other and say, what is your reality like, right? So for example, one thing I knew and I learned was that Stena is ahead of the pack. But I also knew, and we did a study with London School of Economics to confirm that, was that because of regulatory requirements, everybody's going to be forced to do it. So, and today we talk about things like CRM, customer relationship management. But back in the days, there was no company selling CRM. There were corporations creating their own digital Rolodexes. I remember even at Ciba-Geigy and Novartis, we called it Field Force Reporting System. And then somebody said, okay, this actually could be used across many people, so why don't we productize it? And some things were spun off these big companies, and some things were built from ground up. And now we're seeing that in maritime industry, And Orbit is one of several great examples of technologies that will help build a more cohesive and productive and sustainable maritime industry. But that's the history repeats itself, and it's fascinating for me to be part of it the third time. First time with life sciences, second time with financial services, and now in deep waters with maritime.
Wonderful. Maybe we can ask Eric the same question, because I mean, there's first one effort to come to grip with the whole idea to kind of spin out your babies. But secondly, I guess you have to convince the owners of the companies to do that. Is that difficult, or was that difficult for you?
Yeah, I mean, it is to let something go. I mean, we are a private company, and we usually what we like we keep for ourselves. But I think with this journey, I mean, everyone realized quite early that if we're going to do something with this, we cannot continue to develop ourselves. And it took some while to convince our owner about it. But you know, he's also in other parts of digital development. So it was, I would say, relatively easy to get that going.
Okay, great. Yeah, my view at least is that we are in Sweden and actually in Europe, but specifically in Sweden, we are very kind of poor in spinning out things from corporates. If you compare to US, I think there's much more kind of successful cases to find that. So do you think that we have to also learn collectively in our part of the world to play with those things? This is probably the most frequent request we get of things from our member companies, to do more things in learning how to spin out things and how to look at that and how to do that and so forth. But do you agree that we have that kind of weakness here?
You mean if you ask me? Yeah, maybe. Yes, absolutely. I think you're completely right there. And I think well, Sweden as a country that actually develop a lot and where we are quite creative and innovative. I think we could do a lot more on it. But I don't think we are bad. But I think we could definitely do more.
Yeah. Great. So thank you so much, Ali and Eric, so far. And we have to turn page to the third player now. Who are these guys that you keep on referring to? And you know, it's quite recent since I got to know them and were able to talk them into membership of things. I'm so happy for that, because without them, we haven't had that event today. So Darko, are you around somewhere?
Yes, I'm here, Magnus. Hi.
Excellent. So are you planning to share any slides or talk?
No.
Okay.
I think,
so from your point of view, why don't you tell us the story, what happened, you know, from the beginning and onwards? And you can also tell a little bit about your company background, because at least in Sweden, I don't think anybody really knows you. Except.
Yes, basically, I will talk a little bit about HTEC as a company. We started a company in 2008, focused mostly on deep engineering, working with clients such as Intel, Qualcomm, and other big corporates. And basically, from the start, we were a little bit of a different company, tackling the most difficult problems with our clients. And this is what kept us so long within their ecosystem, working with them for more than 10 years, and then also working with the clients of our clients from the technology angle. Over the time, we realized with the knowledge that we have and the vast majority of different domains where we basically were working, we realized that we excel in integration of different technologies for the purpose of building a software that serves the companies, the end customers, and actually making more businesses more efficient and, as Ali said, sustainable in a way. Because today, if you look, digitalization, as Eric mentioned, was a buzzword in 2015, and even before that. But not so many companies actually nailed it down in a way to understand what digitalization is going to bring them. And also, if they don't do it, but most of them understood that if they don't do it, they're not going to be competitive on the market. So we set out to build the products looking from the perspective of the product and the end user who's going to use the product, and not looking from the technology and what technology can do. We are often thinking about the almighty AI and data science is going to solve all of our problems, but actually our problems are in 95% not there. They're in their workflows, in how the data is shipped from one place where it's created, how it's been moved through different departments, through different people to achieve a task at the end. So what we did with STENA at the beginning is we did two things. One is we needed to win the customer, and I'm going to be open about it. And in order to win the customer, you need to see what the customer needs. And we saw the video. So basically, we saw a very flashy video with holograms, and we actually asked ourselves how we can achieve these holograms, how we can help Eric see his holograms. At the time, actually, first version of HoloLens was out, so we were really thinking and also doing some prototyping inside of HTEC to see if this is achievable, if we can actually do it. Of course, we realized that business value is zero at that point and even today. So we didn't want to go that route. But definitely what it taught us with working with STENA is that these guys are actually fast forward looking. So they wanted to see what the future is going to look like. Instead of writing a document about how we are going to build the product that they need, we did interactive mock-ups in a matter of 3 weeks, and then showed that to Eric and his team, which were very close to what they imagined in the video. We even took some of the pieces from the video just to show that this is feasible with the technology that we have today. And this is what we can do in a very short period of time. Then we set out to make the MVP. Ali, you don't like that word, but basically what we needed here is for Eric to sell this to his colleagues, to his board, and to make sure that we are on the right track, to get them excited about what this future technology and what this system is going to help them, but also to onboard the people inside of the company to become the champions of the new software solution that is going to be used in the company. You know, for people that are working in this industry for 30, 40 years, where you still have a phone call away your broker, it was for some of them very incomprehensive how they are going to change their work routine. So from understanding that we need to provide a means to a vision that Eric and the team had in STENA, we understood that at the end, this is going to affect the people that work in STENA Bulk. So we wanted to make sure that we create a product that fits their needs, to make them more successful, more efficient in their work routines, but also not for the technology to be there for them to lose their jobs, but actually to make them more efficient in the time that they have, to lower the cognitive load of looking into what we realized, 14 different software solutions that were used in STENA Bulk on day-to-day basis. On top of that, Excel spreadsheets and even handwritten notes. So we were amazed with the vast majority of different solutions that were coupled together in a very unproductive way, where we didn't have seamless information flow. So what we did first, let's identify the workflows. Let's speak to the people from different departments. Let's go to the chartering, let's go to demurrage and claims, let's go speak to bunkering, and see what is the day-to-day routine with those people. At that time, we didn't have COVID, so we were free to walk into the office, sit down with the STENA employees, do the workshops, do the ideations, etc. So this was one track. The other very important track in this digitalization, and we have to understand, business has to be run day to day. So we need to make sure that whatever we are doing, we are not jeopardizing the business. So there are no breaking changes. You need to infiltrate new technology and new solutions very slowly. So what we were doing is that by the time that we were developing the product itself on the user interface and user interaction level, we were also developing the model of the technology that is going to support it. Back in 2015, 2016, we were on the verge of two things. First of all, cloud, we knew that we needed to go native cloud, and STENA had everything on their own premises. So if we realized that we cannot change the complete landscape of the system, but we needed to make a hybrid solution where we are going to be able to serve some of the platform, part of the platform on the cloud, and also to connect it with something that is on premise. We need to make sure that when we exchange pieces of the software solution that they were using at the time with the new software solution, that we can couple in old data sources into that. So this was one very challenging part of designing the new system. The second thing that we were worrying about is to make sure that 5 years from then, we have a technology stack that is still not obsolete. And at the time, we had .NET Core. I'm going into specific, but it's very important of the way of thinking when you do such things. .NET Core was still in the beta version. We were debating between ourselves and together with STENA and with the STENA IT department, if we are going to go this way. Because if we don't go this way, then most probably this technology that we were about to use is going to be obsolete. But in the future, if we go this route and this pans out not to be adopted, then we have a huge risk. STENA being STENA supported us into making this really huge risk at the time. But in order to make it more riskier, we didn't go for the Azure that you would normally go, but we did it with AWS because it was much more stable at the moment. So we actually had to play with very innovative things at the moment to make sure that you have a future-proof product right now. This is what we have. Now, .NET Core is mature. It works on AWS, but we can easily switch to Azure if we want. So everything is there. And I think that we did a set of very, very good decisions at the beginning. But if it wasn't for STENA as a phenomenal customer at the moment, actually trusting us based on the things that we did together to do such moves, we wouldn't be in a position now to actually build this company in a way together with OrbitMI at the moment. So the other very important thing is to besides technology part is the domain. So what I like to say right now in the looking at the 5 years back is that you have a team of excellent people that have been working on this product from the beginning, that sit in a country and know about maritime and about the landscape of the maritime software so much, but sit in a country that doesn't have a sea. So we don't have a culture of maritime, but we learned it. We invested a lot of time learning about glossary. I remember our product manager at the beginning created a Confluence page with all of the different terms that are going to be there in maritime. So even today, when you go to the first page of our Confluence, you can see that glossary of terms. First to understand, then to be able to speak to all of the people, then to be able to speak to the customers. And Ali can confirm that today, our team is invaluable for the demos that we are preparing for different customers. And understanding completely the domain, the challenges, and the benefits that this software solution can offer to the even competitors of STENA Bulk. By the way, this is a very bold move. So I think that that understanding of the domain and acquiring of the domain knowledge is crucial to do very good digitalization. But the domain knowledge cannot be acquired from the textbooks. Basically, you need to acquire it from the people that are in the domain. So marrying a company that is very well versed in technology, that can deliver end-to-end enterprise solutions and think 5 steps ahead in delivering those kinds of solutions, together with the forward-looking company that has a domain knowledge and has dedicated its time and time of their employees to help us understand the domain, is the key to success. If you commission the development of the software solutions for the digitalization of one industry to some other company, you're going to get the software solutions built by tech people and not build. This software solution is not built by tech people. The software solution is built by the domain experts that we have. One of the things which is also important, is how you introduce the software solution in day-to-day work. It has to be seamless. You need to find the champions. And we found the champions from the start. We had people that are young. Of course, they want to use mobile solutions. The adaptation rate for the mobile solution wasn't so big until the COVID struck, actually. But nevertheless, we also had the older generations that actually were very curious about this new technology. And then you had also the people that didn't want to go into using this new platform, because you have to empathize, you have to understand that this is going to radically change their day-to-day routine that have been using for 30 years. And it's normal that they are going to be afraid. But I think that STENA did also a very good job in making sure to align all of the people and include people in building this solution. This is include people on different positions in the company to be the champions of building this solution. Then transition happens very organically, because some of the people are going to start using that new solution and Orbit, and some other colleagues are going to see the benefits, and then start adopting that Orbit as well. So when we heard that STENA wants to basically spin off this company in a separate company, we were both very happy, but both very worried at the time if this is the right move, not in terms of the right move from the business standpoint. That was the right move. That was a bold right move that we supported from the start. But actually to have completely new people coming in, we were a little bit worried to understand if we are going to be able to work together. Hopefully Ali and his team were phenomenal at this point, and really the cooperation from that point, building the trust between the companies and building the trust between three companies right now was the crucial to this. And how you build trust? You build trust by delivering what you say that you're going to deliver, but you also build trust by saying no, by being bold, by providing a real insight into what could happen in the future if we do make this decision or that decision, but also to understand the needs of the company at that point of time. Because you cannot go for building a space rocket if you only need to take a journey from Gothenburg to Stockholm. Basically, we needed to adapt ourselves a little bit to another way of working, another way of thinking, being more agile, more productive with a less amount of time, and understanding that we are building the enterprise solution at the same time. So I think that these kind of experiences actually taught us a lot throughout this cooperation with STENA Bulk and OrbitMI and Ali's team right now, that we are very confident, and we are sharing these experiences with other digital transformations that we are doing with other companies, because it doesn't boil down to the technology. It boils down to the domain knowledge and expertise, empathy with the people that are going to use that new pieces of software that we are developing, understanding the business of the customer and how this affects their business. So what we realized, I can tell one more story basically. What we realized over the time that we have a limited number of requests that we can have for example, routing solution that we are using. So what we wanted and what we set out to basically do, to understand how we can actually leverage all of the data and how we can help ourselves overcome these hurdles. And this came actually from HTEC. This came as a proposal from HTEC. Let's try to build something that is new, that is innovative, that is going to give us the edge, not just in new routing solution based on a new technology and a new way of thinking, but actually to allow us to create more solutions on top of that and give the competitive edge to STENA and everyone else involved. Because now, instead of just being limited to a couple of thousands of requests, we can do as much as we want. We can route all of the ships that we have in the segment in a 3 or 4 weeks from that point to understand where they are going to end up. So having the ability to actually create and to contribute meaningfully came only from the domain knowledge, only from the understanding of the business, and where are the shortcomings of the current technology and what you can do with something that's new. If we set out to do that 5 years ago, we wouldn't be successful because we didn't know the domain, but also the technology wasn't there. Now it's there. And that kind of a curiosity coming from all sides, I think is a winning factor in making sure that this partnership is really, really tremendous. So I will conclude with that and leave some more time for the questions. And I wanted, because I know that a lot of the HTEC team that has been part of this journey is also following this, but also STENA Bulk team and Ali's team. I want to thank everyone personally here for the journey, for the effort, for the curiosity, and for everything that they did to make this cooperation successful and to create something that is going to basically radically change the landscape and the ecosystem of maritime technology.
Superb. Thank you so much, Darko. I have a question from the audience, which is great. But before I raise that question to kind of the three of you, I guess, I have a specific question for you. What makes me really impressed with HTEC, and I wonder really how you do that, is that you seem to be doing a very, very kind of thorough job for a long time with your clients. But it's very, at the same time, it's very much high tech. It's very sophisticated technologies and all of that. So normally in a company like any one of them, normally the problem is to have people and processes follow the development and support the development over time. How are you able to have your people being part of several different kind of visions and special tracks and at the same time? I just find that amazing. How do you actually do? You throw people back and forth, or you must have your own culture as well in HTEC that you bring them to?
The first two things, these are not the same people. As Eric knows, and as Ali as well, we have people that started this project from the very beginning and they're still there on that project. Why? Because we make sure that the projects that we are working on are really top-notch, very demanding, and that people feel that they contribute. But in order for them to feel that they contribute meaningfully, you need to have really an excellent customer to provide an excellent service. And excellent customer is the one that is not seeing us as a vendor, but seeing us as a partner, seeing us as a part of the team. And this is what Ali and Eric also shared. It's important that we are building this together. So this is one thing. The other thing that is important is that how you share these experiences between the people. Well, we have a number of cross-project organizations like Tech Excellence Office, Product Innovation Office, People Office, that are there to thread put the thread between these different projects, and that we share how we approach things. So we teach them methodology. We don't teach them the domain. We don't teach them the technology. We teach them the methodology that is successful. So if we have a successful story with STENA and OrbitMI, we're going to teach that to every other team. And this is how we make sure that we have a continuity in providing an excellent service for our customers. It's a very hard thing to do, especially when you're a company that is exponentially expanding like we are. We had at the beginning of 2020, we had a little bit more than 300 people, and now we have almost 900 people in the company. So this is a huge expansion, but then we invest even more into making sure that these experiences are shared between the people. Actually, what you see behind me is, as you might see, it's a real library. I had the pleasure of using it right now. We're here on the company offsite, trying to align our strategy for the following quarter. So we gather our leadership in the company just to make sure that we align on what we are doing, how we are going to do, and how we are going to approach the customers and the building of the products in the future. Also, when we realized that we lacked some experiences, as we lacked experience in actually user experience and further to deepen the product innovation part, we acquired a company out of Serbia, a small specialized company that was doing only product innovation, because we found it very important for us to support our customers in this beginning of the journey. We did it with STENA, we did it with a couple of other companies before, but now we have brought that even to much, much higher level, to have the methodologies and to have the people that are going to drive this, not for some specific customers, but for all of our customers. So we learn from our mistakes, we learn from the experiences, and we see what we can do better. And this is how we actually build a sustainable structure and a sustainable company that can support innovation, that can support corporate spin-offs, that can support different domains and industries, just because we make sure that our people know the business of our customers.
I'm very, very impressed. Let me give you the question from the audience. How is the spin-off financed? With external VC money, why or why not? I don't know who's best to answer that.
Since I'm the CEO, I should answer that.
Okay.
Unless Darko wants to. But we are financed by a combination of third-party revenue as we're onboarding new customers, initial investment by STENA, and also in the future by additional strategic and financial investors. The first thing is to take one step at a time, get to the point where you can scale, and you have to know what you're raising money for. Are you raising money to build a product? Are you making money to take it to market? Or are you raising money to growth, to replicate your success, in other words? And we're in the growth funding phase, and it's very exciting.
Excellent.
And why? Because it's really good to have a healthy board with different representation, both the financial disciplines and the strategic disciplines, meaning strategic and ecosystem disciplines.
Great. Ali, here's another question for you. I think maybe it's mentioned. When was OrbitMI founded?
It was, MI was founded June 1st. Our birthday is coming up, 2019. And in early, at the same time of COVID, really launched the commercial aspects of it, because initially we had to transform the product to make sure that all the data security was there, GDPR, single sign-on, all those things that you would want in a safe and secure software as a service solution.
Friends, we're coming close to the end. I just must say something that surprises me a lot. This is the first time ever we had an event of things, and we've had many, I'll tell you, where only 2 guys have left during the entire Congress. So yeah, I mean, the content, the story you have shared with us is immensely important for people. That's how I read it. And I'm so thankful for you to do this. I hope all of you will be very successful. I hope we'll work together with each of you. You are more than welcome to join us at things as members and all of that. And with HTEC and our new fellowship, we have a lot of good things to do together onwards. So I think we stop there. Thank you so much. Thank you to the audience. You will get feedback afterwards if you're going to know how to contact each of the companies and all of that. So with that, have a good day. Thank you so much, and be careful.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Bye bye.